More than 23,000 tons of bombs were dropped on the Nazis by the Soviet Union's 588th Air Regiment, which is over 2,000 tons more than the largest nuclear bomb dropped on Japan. The 588th Regiment of female pilots, known as the Night Witches, saved the Soviet Union in World War II from being taken over and potentially the world by helping them win the war against Nazi Germany with their firepower. The first female pilot that became a part of the Soviet Air Force, coincidentally, was also a very trusted advisor of Stalin's. Her name was Marina Roskova. She was also known as the Soviets' very own Amelia Earhart. She had set records in the long-distance flying. She was also widely considered by the Soviet Union to be their best pilot. Due to her close ties to Stalin, she was able to push for a female air force, and due to her being so famous, she ended up having, according to Megan Garber of The Atlantic, over 2,000 women volunteering to join her and her cause. Her pushing to have females in combat roles ended up causing other nations to allow women to join in combat roles. Operation Barbarossa pressed Stalin and made him desperate. Operation Barbarossa was an operation which had the German forces launching a massive invasion of the Soviet Union, which was succeeding massively. Due to Stalin's desperation, the newly formed Night Witches had been ordered in 1942 to carry out a bombing attack on a Nazi headquarters, which succeeded extremely well. The female Night Witches had later on succeeded on continuously pushing the Eastern Front against German forces, effectively keeping them out of Soviet lands, and protecting the whole of the Soviet Union from the Nazi reach. So who were the massively feared and respected Night Witches, and what did they do? The actual title of the Night Witches was the 588th Night Bomber Regiment, and then later changed to the 46th Taman Guard Night Bomber Aviation Regiment. The Night Witch name had come from the German name for this regiment. They were given this name due to the sounds that engines made as they idled towards their targets. It was similar to that of a swooshing sound of a brush, thus the name Night Witches was born. As a fun fact, any German soldier who shot down a Night Witch was awarded the Iron Cross. The Night Witches were one of the greatest examples of females being able to join in combat situations. They carried out numerous missions from the beginning of their creation to the end of the war. This led to other female groups being inducted into the military service and put in combat roles instead of the standard supporting roles at the time. Despite their numerous successes in combat, the Night Witches didn't have the best equipment. Their uniforms had consisted of hand-me-downs from the male Soviet Union soldiers, thus it was ill-fitting. Their planes were not much better, as they were given Polikarpov PO-2 biplanes, which prior to this had been used in training planes, says Brian Holland of the History Network. These planes were extremely small, allowing for only 2 bombs to be carried at a time, and were composed of plywood and canvas stretched over the frame. Despite these planes being made of such poor material and even called a coffin with wings, they still performed extremely well. They also had little navigational equipment, which consisted of a map and a compass. The Night Witches had flown 30,000 missions and 24,000 night bombing missions over the course of 4 years. One of the Night Witches' most used and favorite tactics was to turn off their engines and idle and sort of glide until they got to their target. This led to them being nearly undetectable and utterly silent, according to Jerry D. Morlock of the History Network. Most of their targets consisted of what you'd expect from a bomber. These targets would consist of railways, rail stations, ammo storage sites, and fuel storage sites, as well as searchlights and armored targets. As an added benefit, the Germans sometimes stored ammo or other important supplies near their fuel depots, allowing for massive damage. The Night Witches, or the 588th Bomber Regiment, saved the Soviet Union and potentially the whole world. In short, the Night Witches were a bomber regiment started by Marina Roskova with the help of Joseph Stalin. They consisted of an all-female regiment and launched numerous missions against Nazi Germany, in addition to laying down heavy firepower against Nazis. They were also the first women to actually fight in combat. With them only losing 30 out of 1,200 pilots in total, they sealed the Soviet Union's safety in war. Thank you all for listening to my speech.